Hello, this is Lisa, CEO of Site for Wight, welcoming you to this week's Talking News on Saturday, the 26th of November, 2022. I'm hoping now that everybody has received our mini newsletter and that you are looking forward to the open morning for our Christmas mulled wine and mince pies on Wednesday, the 7th of December, here at Millbrook House from 10:30 till 12:30. At this time, we will also be drawing our Christmas raffle, so if you haven't yet bought your raffle tickets, please do let us know at the office on 522205. With December just around the corner, it seems very strange now to be booking things in for 2023. To be honest, I'm not quite sure where 2022 is, and if you're anything like me, that since 2020, trying to work out what happened which year is very confusing. With the rain now finally stopped, we can all look forward to a few days of crisp winter sunshine. Please, everybody, stay safe. Thank you, Lisa, CEO, Site for Wight.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. A new housing development has been proposed on the outskirts of Newport. Weymouth-based company Betterment Properties have submitted plans for 46 homes, 1-bed flats and 2, 3 and 4-bed houses on Buckley Lane next to the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. Outline plans have been submitted for the site off Long Lane, only seeking permission for access to the site and whether a residential development would be acceptable in that location. Other matters considered necessary by planners, including the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale, would all be determined through a later application. Planning agent BCM, on behalf of Betterment Properties, said in documents the site is suitable, available and deliverable for new housing. It also said it would not have a negative impact on existing residential amenities, trees, ecology, highways or foul and surface water drainage infrastructure. You can view the application 22/032/out on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until December the 16th.
This is Katrina reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Homecoming for Isle of Wight baby born 16 weeks premature. After nearly a year in hospital, a baby born 16 weeks premature has come home to the Isle of Wight. Lily Walker and David Hopkins' daughter Ava weighed just 1 pound and 4 ounces when she was delivered via emergency C-section at Portsmouth's Queen Alexandra Hospital in December last year. After spending 9 weeks in the neonatal intensive care unit, NICU, she was then transferred to Southampton Children's Hospital for additional specialist care, whilst her parents stayed at the nearby Ronald MacDonald House. Most families stay for around 2 weeks, but for Lily and David turned out to be a bit longer, 268 nights. Now, as Eva's first birthday and Christmas approaches, the family finally have something to celebrate. After returning to the island Tuesday, Lily said, "We're so pleased to be home for these milestones, and we'll no doubt be making lots of memories in the weeks ahead. Although we hope never to have a prolonged hospital stay with Ava again, we will miss the staff and the other families we got to know so well at Ronald MacDonald House, Southampton, and we'll be forever grateful for the support and friendship they gave us. We plan to visit as soon as we can." David said, "It's amazing to see how far Ava has come, and we can't wait to introduce her to lots of family and friends who've not met her yet." Ava has a number of ongoing health issues, including chronic lung disease, but she's doing so well and her strength has kept us going. Sarah Jane Beavis house manager at Ronald MacDonald House, Southampton, said, "We are here for families for as long as they have a sick child in hospital, no matter how long that might be. It was our pleasure to be able to provide a home away from home for Lily and David and help ease some of the emotional and financial burden for them while Ava was receiving the treatment she needed. It's sad to see them go, but we're so pleased they can finally go home and start their next chapter as a family." Ava will spend the first few nights at St Mary's Hospital, where she'll be monitored and will get to know her new care home. After a week or so, she will go home for the first time.
This is Michael reading an article from Ireland Echo. Special equine clinic could be established at donkey sanctuary if plans are approved. In what is being described as possibly vital service, an equine clinic for donkeys could be heading to the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary. In plans submitted by the Isle of Wight Donkey Sanctuary, a treatment centre could be built at its Wroxall home to meet the ever-increasing medical need on site. The Donkey Sanctuary says in planning documents submitted to the Isle of Wight Council, the clinic would give more accurate diagnoses and provide better facilities for routine treatments. It would also prevent risky, costly, and sometimes difficult to arrange trips to the mainland for care, which have been led to appeals for help to save the life of a sick donkey and issues with travel on Christmas Day. The sanctuary said travel time can worsen conditions considerably. While minor operations and dentistry work is carried out at its Wroxall home, the unsatisfactory conditions make it challenging for vets. It currently has no facility to carry out diagnostic testing and relies on small portable equipment to make a decision on a donkey's well-being. It said, had the clinic been available in the last year, more than 60 donkeys would have benefited. The clinic would have 2 treatment rooms, operating theatres, diagnostic equipment, recovery rooms, a small pharmacy, an overnight room for care staff, and an office. The sanctuary says Vectis Equine and the Liphook Equine Hospital are behind the scheme, having contributed to its development and have given their expertise to the technical aspects of the scheme. Architect Nigel van Nuffelen says the barn will be sympathetic to the other buildings on site and will reflect the rural and rustic feeling of the sanctuary. It is hoped the construction of the facility can start as soon as permission is granted. You can view the application 22/01948/FUL on the Isle of Wight Council's planning portal. Comments can be submitted until the 16th of December. The plans have the support of Wroxall Parish Council.
This is Katrina reading from Isle of Wight Radio. Several scams issued for the Isle of Wight. Trading Standards has issued several scam warnings for the Isle of Wight. Reports of calls from banks, Visa and Amazon saying that money has come out of your account. The scammer will fish for your details. These are scams. Do not respond. If you are at all concerned, you should put the phone down and wait 10 minutes or use another line and contact your bank to verify. Be wary if you're dealing with a solicitor and communicating via email. There are reports of solicitors' accounts getting hacked and emails telling house buyers to pay the deposit into an account which turns out to be a scam. If you're in the process of purchasing a house, always verify solicitors' bank details with them verbally. Don't trust emails and communications with such large amounts. A warning to businesses. A new report relates to garages and the purchase of parts. However, it could easily apply to any business. Criminals are purchasing car parts over the phone using stolen card details. They then collect the item, followed by the card company, reversing the payment and leaving the business at a loss.
This is Michael reading an article from Isle of Wight Radio. Voters in Bryston, Kelborn and Shellfleet head to the polls. Voters in Bryston, Kelborn and Shellfleet will head to the polls today, Thursday, to fill a vacancy on the Isle of Wight Council. It follows the resignation of leading Conservative councillor Steve Hastings, who said he had become disillusioned by local and national politics following the turmoil in the Conservative Party nationally. A by-election will now be held for a new councillor, completing the council chamber once again. The candidates standing are Doug Aldred, Green Party, Carol Bryan, Conservative Party, Gary Clark, Labour Party, Nick Stewart, Liberal Democrat, Stephen J. Parks, Vectis Party. Polls will open on Thursday from 7 a.m. and close at 10 p.m. There are 6 polling stations to cast your vote at, or drop off your postal vote if you had not been able to post it. Polling stations can be found at the following locations: Wilberforce Hall, North Street, Bryston; Seeley Hall, Brook; Kelborn Recreation Centre, School Lane; Porchfield Village Hall; Newbridge Community Centre, Main Road; Shellfleet Village Hall, Church Lane. Your polling station will be stipulated on your poll card. Polls will close at 10 p.m, with the count starting shortly after. Once all the votes have been counted and checked, a winner will be announced, potentially early Friday morning. What happened at previous elections? Mr. Hastings was elected to the seat in 2018 and retained his place on the authority in 2021 by a 170 vote margin. The turnout was just under 50% of the ward, and Mr. Hastings was elected with 549 votes, beating other candidates from the Liberal Democrats, Nick Stewart, 377 votes, and the Green Party, Doug Aldred, 335. What could the result mean? The seat has been a Conservative stronghold for many years and was the former ward of now MP Bob Seeley when he was on the council. If the Conservative candidate, Carol Bryan, were to win, it would bring the number of Tory councillors at County Hall back up to 18, the largest group on the Isle of Wight Council. With Mr. Hastings' resignation, it dropped the Tories down to 17 councillors, the same number as the ruling Alliance administration. If either the Labour, Gary Clark, Liberal Democrat, Nick Stewart, or Vectis Party, Stephen J. Parks, candidate were to win, they would join the sole representative on the council so far, making a party of 2 at County Hall. For Labour, Councillor Richard Quigley represents Cowes North. For the Liberal Democrats, Councillor Andrew Garrett represents Parkhurst and Honey Hill. For the Vectis Party, Councillor Darrell Pitcher represents Wootton Bridge. Of those 3 parties, councillors have so far declined the offer of joining the Alliance administration, instead solely representing their political group. If the Green Party candidate, Doug Aldred, were to win, he would have the chance to join his 2 fellow party members, Councillors Claire Critchison and Joe Lever, in the Alliance administration, while also representing his political group. Should Mr. Aldred do so, it would push the Alliance numbers back up to 18, following the resignation of Councillor Jeff Brodie from the group last year. It would make the Alliance the biggest group on the council and hold the overall majority. The Alliance administration has not put forward a candidate, but hope to see the election of a candidate who would support them and the work they do.
Hello, this is an article from the Island Echo, read by Sue. 3 island beaches among top 5 in UK worst affected by sewage spills. Beaches at Cowes, Gurnard and Yaverland are 2nd, 4th and 5th respectively on the list of beaches worst affected by the discharges from southern water. Surfers Against Sewage, SAS, Annual Water Quality Report, which launches on Thursday the 24th of November for the first time, reveals evidence that water companies have permitted illegal dry spills, i.e. discharges of sewage when there has been no rain. Sewage outflows are only permitted in unusually heavy rainfall, but analysis from SAS suggests regulations were ignored by water companies. Last week, Island Echo was told that Southern Water had admitted unlawfully discharge of sewage in Gurnard after one reader saw a thick brown sludge rising to the top of the water. Going back as recently as October, protesters gathered on the beach in Gurnard along with Island MP Bob Seeley to let their views on sewage discharge known. Those in attendance and Mr Seeley proportion a lot of the blame with Southern Water, who, in Seeley's words, have split too much sewage into rivers and onto beaches and must clean up their act. Despite public outcry at the volume of sewage being released by water companies into our rivers and onto our beaches, the government has continued to drag its heels on bringing water companies into line. Reductions in regulator funding of over 50% over the last decade, combined with a stripping of red tape to allow water companies to self-report on their pollution, has left the UK's rivers and seascapes in dire straits. Amy Slack, Head of Campaigns and Policy at SAS, said, "Surfers Against Sewage has been campaigning on water quality for the last 3 decades, making it abundantly clear to water companies that their actions are detrimental to both environmental and public health. Yet water companies are still choosing to pour sewage into the ocean and rivers across the country, make us quite literally sick of sewage. The government is complicit in the sewage scandal, failing to enforce and strengthen regulations to protect the health of the UK's waterways and the health of its citizens. Politicians are simply kicking the can down the road, legitimising sewage pollution for the next 27 years through the Sewage Action Plan, published this summer."
This is Patrina reading from Island Echo. Emergency works continue in frantic bid to stabilise Ventnor sea wall. Emergency works are continuing in Ventnor in a frantic bid to stabilise the sea wall to prevent further damage. As previously reported by Island Echo, the partial collapse of the sea wall that runs between Ventnor and Bonchurch has led to concern about the potential for an imminent environmental disaster. There are fears that a concrete pipe could be damaged, which would spill untreated sewage from Bonchurch and Ventnor straight into the sea. This week, as part of the ongoing efforts to mitigate the damage done, especially engineered rock net sacks will be packed into the void that now extends under the eastern esplanade. The sacks will be linked together to help stabilise the coastal defences just beyond Ventnor's Gate Park, where the partial collapse of 2 concrete panels is allowing material under the apron to be washed away. Further work will take place to stabilise the seawall over the coming weeks, but teams are currently awaiting the next low spring tide to be able to see the extent of the works needed. However, the reality is that it could be some time before the coastal path is reopened, and it may be years until the situation is permanently resolved. The year 2026 has been raised as a possible date of completion. Natasha Dix, the Council's Strategic Manager for the Environment and Waste, has said that the area remains extremely dangerous and is urging people to stay away for their own safety. She said, "It's with a heavy heart I have to say that pedestrian access along the seawall may not be restored in the short term. Currently, our teams are working collaboratively to carry out emergency works to try to stabilise this section of the revetment and prevent further damage and erosion. Once that has been achieved, we can then look to start urgent work to maintain the seawall and consider options for the promenade. We are already lining up coastal structural engineers for this purpose. We'll know more in the new year as to what solutions can be considered. Until then, I cannot stress strongly enough just how dangerous it is for anyone to try to gain access to the site. Although it may look safe, the large void could mean the concrete collapses at any moment. Anyone who ignores the closure will be putting not just their own lives at risk, but those of the emergency services too. Daily monitoring continues to take place with the Council working in collaboration with the Environmental Agency and Southern Water, as well as consulting with the Marine Conservation Society, Natural England and the Marine Management Organisation.
Hello, this is an article from Isle of Wight Radio, read by Sue. Isle of Wight's end-of-life care team shortlisted for the Sun's Who Cares Wins Award. The end-of-life care team on Wellow Unit at the Isle of Wight NHS Trust has been shortlisted for the Sun's Who Cares Wins Health Awards in the Best Team category. The category they have been nominated for, Best Team, is for any NHS or healthcare team on the front line and behind the scenes that has gone above and beyond the call of duty. Wellow Unit have also made it down to the final three, beating over 100 nominations. Since opening in February 2020, the team have cared for over 1,300 patients and their families. In 2 years, the team have supported our island's community through some of the toughest and most distressing times, always focused on making sure our patients have the best possible care as their lives draw to an end. Shane Moody, Clinical Director for End-of-Life Care at the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, said, "We are absolutely delighted to have been nominated for this award. I am so proud of the team on Wellow Unit. The nomination recognises everyone's commitment and passion to provide the best possible end-of-life care to people and their families." Juliet Pearce, Director of Nursing, Midwifery and Allied Health Professionals at the Isle of Wight NHS Trust, said, "This is a fantastic achievement for the team on Wellow Unit. Since opening in February 2020, the team have made a huge difference to people who are reaching the end of their lives. I am delighted that the team have been recognised for their commitment and hard work." The Sun's Who Cares Wins Health Awards are organised in partnership with Channel 4, the National Lottery and NHS Charities Together. The awards, presented by Davina McCall, will be aired on Channel 4 on Sunday the 27th at 6:30pm.
This is the second part of the Talking News, read by Jerry
and Rosie.
Before we start the second part of the Talking News, here is this week's Society News, 25th of November. Swimming is on every Monday at Medina Leisure Centre, Newport, between 1:15 and 2:15. We have exclusive hire of the whole pool and the cost is only £5. Please call the office to book a space.
There is no yoga on Tuesday, but will resume next Tuesday, the 6th of December, sessions at Millbrook House. The cost is £3 and runs between 2pm and 3pm. Refreshments served afterwards.
Coffee and Chat is on Wednesday at Millbrook House. The cost is £1 for coffee and cake, and everyone is welcome to come along.
Monthly book group is on Thursday at the Lord Lewis Library, Newport, between 2 p.m. and 3 p.m. The group is free and everyone is welcome.
A date for your diary, December the 5th at the Riverside Centre, our annual story writing competition awards evening, starting at 7 p.m. The evening is full of entertainment, raffle, and it's free, so please come along and support the event.
Do not forget our Christmas raffle, to be drawn on the 7th of December at Millbrook House. If you have tickets, please remember to return them, or if you require more, we can easily send some out in the post. On the 7th of December, we would like to invite you all into Millbrook House for a festive morning with festive food and drink, where the grand raffle will be drawn.
If you are interested in any of the activities and events, please do not hesitate to contact the office on 522 205.
Shanklin Cliff fall following heavy downpour. A cliff fall at Shanklin has left a light-coloured scar where the earth has fallen away after days of heavy rain. Islander Paul Jeffreys heard the moment it happened and told the county press about a loud rumbling sound, like thunder. His photos show the size of the fall just along the beach from Ralston Gardens and Apley Steps. Isle of Wight Council said, "We would like to remind all of our communities that as we move into the autumn-winter stormier seasons, the cliffs around the island's coasts are susceptible to cliff falls caused by erosion from the sea, wind and rain. When visiting our beaches, everyone should be mindful of the risk of rockfalls and the danger of stormy seas. If there isn't a clear dry area of beach award from the cliffs and the swell, do consider staying away to protect yourselves and the services that would need to be called to rescue you."
Postal strike warning. A postal strike has prompted a warning to Shanklin Central voters. The Falcon Cross Hall polling station will be open on December the 1st for the election of a new town council member. However, Royal Mail workers will walk out on Wednesday and Thursday next week, and any postal votes that arrive after 10 p.m. on polling day will not be counted. Anyone unable to return a postal vote before Thursday can hand it in at the polling station between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. or at County Hall.
Fake parking app warning. Bogus sites are attempting to dupe drivers into giving up their bank account details. There is a warning to those paying to park through the Isle of Wight Council's parking payment app, Pay by Phone. Pay by Phone has confirmed it does not provide a subscription service and will never charge a card without your authorization. To avoid the scam, download the Pay by Phone app directly from the App Store or call the official helpline 0330 400 7275.
New Chief Constable is a homegrown officer. The Police and Crime Panel this week approved Scott Chilton as the next Chief Constable for Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary. He will take over the role at the end of February 2023 from Olivia Pinkney, who announced that she is leaving policing earlier this year. Scott joined H&IWC in 1992, working his way through uniformed policing before joining CID in 1996. And spending the next 16 years as a detective, progressing through the ranks to Chief Superintendent. His time there included a 2008 tour of duty in Afghanistan, where he led a team tackling corruption and police reform. He was Assistant Chief Constable at H&IWC and then joined Dorset Police in July 2020 as Deputy Chief Constable and was promoted to Chief Constable in July 2021. He said, "I am honoured to have been chosen as the next Chief Constable of H&IWC and look forward to working with Police and Crime Commissioner Donna Jones to keep our communities safe and deliver the best policing services we can. It's a real privilege to be the first homegrown Chief Constable in the force, where I began my career in policing. and to be given the opportunity to lead the dedicated and committed officers, staff and volunteers.
DriveIn Cinema to return. The Christmas DriveIn Cinema, in aid of the Wessex Cancer Trust on the island, returns on the first weekend of December, this time at the Needles landmark attraction. On Saturday, December 3rd, the Needles will screen Elf, How the Grinch Stole Christmas, and Love Actually. On Sunday, December 4th, Home Alone, After Christmas and the Holiday will feature on the 9.2 metre by 5.3 metre LED screen. Laura Haytack, Wessex Cancer Trust's regional fundraising manager, said, "Our drive-in cinema has become a tradition for families on the island and is a great way to kick off the festive season. So cosy up with your loved ones with a classic Christmas film and know that you are raising money to support islanders affected by cancer."
Woman thanks emergency lifesavers after steps fall. A woman who fell 9 feet onto concrete steps in Bembridge, fracturing her skull and spine, has thanked the crew of the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Air Ambulance for saving her life. "I don't want to sound dramatic, but Trevor thought I was dead," said Janine Ward, 71, from Lincoln. In May, she was left semi-conscious with a large wound to her head when she slipped. Janine and husband Trevor, 72, had only just arrived on the island for their holiday. Due to the severity of Janine's injuries, the air ambulance and Coast Guard teams were called. A doctor and paramedic from the air ambulance service administered medication to improve and maintain Janine's blood pressure. Then she was airlifted to hospital, where she underwent emergency surgery in Southampton. Janine said, "It wasn't until I let out a groan that Trevor learned I was alive. He's sure I wouldn't have made it without the air ambulance." Janine was later moved from Southampton to the Sheffield Spinal Cord Injuries Unit via a hospital in Nottingham. She returned home in September and now uses a wheelchair while she continues to recover. Her son, Russ, has since raised £1,464 for the air ambulance by completing the Lincoln Half Marathon.
Grants help support families. Island organisations are being offered grants of up to £3,000 to help deliver initiatives that support families, children and young people. The Early Help Community Capacity Building Grant is available to local groups, clubs and enterprises through the Isle of Wight Council's Supporting Families programme. Funding is intended to help providers organise activities, clubs or groups for families, parents and carers, and or young people up to the age of 19, up to 25 for specified additional needs. Grants could be used to set up and run schemes like parental, baby or toddler groups, teenage groups, family-based groups, mental health and welcoming hubs, peer support groups, outreach support, and community-led groups and activities. The grant application opened on Wednesday, and organisations are encouraged to apply by November 28th. To find out more or apply for the grant, visit the council website.
Green light for new homes proposals. Another major development has been approved for Gunville, but further road safety measures have been secured. The outline application was approved on Tuesday by the Isle of Wight Council's Planning Committee for more than 100 houses proposed by developers Gallant Green. No specific number has been set yet, but plans include an estimated 117 properties in the fields next to and behind the former Friends of the Animals charity shop. The application first came before the committee last year, but was deferred due to highways concerns and the request for more information. After further exploration, council officers advised the original scheme, removing the pinch point at Gunville Road and replacing it with a zebra crossing, was the most suitable, but also suggested a pedestrian and cycling link from the east of the site towards Carisbrooke College through to Taylor Road. Speaking at the meeting, Councillor Matt Price asked for another zebra crossing to be installed on Gunville Road, closer to Home Bargains, as it was a difficult road for school children to cross and relied on motorists stopping. Councillor Jeff Brodie said he was disappointed the opening of Taylor Road to motorists was essentially rubbished by officers, but supported the application as it addressed pedestrian safety issues. He urged the council's cabinet to look at the highway link given the amount of future development in the area. Councillor Peter Spink said they were condemning the residents of Gunville to a huge amount of development. Councillors passed the development from a motion put forward by Councillor Price, with 5 votes in favour and 4 against, with the extra provision of 2 zebra crossings, retaining public space and 80% designated as affordable rent. Speaking after the meeting, Councillor Price said he was frustrated that he was interrupted by the chair, Councillor John Medland, as it did not allow him to put forward his entire proposal, which meant the housing was exclusively for islanders. Councillor Medland was conscious of time, saying in the meeting an extension would have to be asked for if discussions continued. The meeting, however, finished with 10 minutes to spare.
Litter fine. A man must pay more than £400 in court fees after being caught littering. The case of Tim Smith of Newport Road, Cowes, was heard before Portsmouth magistrates on October 20th. The 46-year-old was charged with throwing, leaving, or otherwise depositing litter, namely a cigarette butt, on above Bar Street in Southampton. The offence took place on June 27th and was captured on CCTV. Smith was fined £220 and ordered to pay costs of £100 and an £88 surcharge.
Leader justifies secrecy over floating Bridge 6. The use of non-disclosure agreements leaves a bad taste in the mouth, the Isle of Wight Council leader has admitted. But she said in the case of Floating Bridge 6, the settlement was the difference between a deal or no deal. Addressing full council last week, Councillor Laura Pesey Wilcox said the administration would not have used a non-disclosure agreement if they had not felt it was the only way to get a considerable financial contribution. It follows the news the council had concluded legal mediation with the boat builders and marine architects and secured an undisclosed sum of money. Nothing else was said about the settlement, and the authority refused to comment further. The move has been criticised and was called completely unacceptable and a secret backroom deal by Councillor Joe Robertson, the Conservative opposition leader at County Hall. At last night's meeting, Councillor P.C. Wilcox confirmed the concealment of the settlement figure was down to the third-party insurers of the commercial contractors, Mainstay Marine and Burness Corlault Three Keys. Councillor P.C. Wilcox said, "I wake every morning trying to find new ways to do the best for islanders, and while NDAs leave a very bad taste in your mouth, they were used by the previous administration as well for commercially sensitive information. In this instance, given a choice between picking a deal or no deal, I put my trust in officers to do the right thing. I still have trust in them, and while it will never be a perfect solution, we have one that was better for the island than hoped for, and it means we can move on to more pressing matters. I still pledge to deliver the best for this island, even if it makes me unpopular with opposition colleagues." A motion was due to be heard later in the meeting put forward by Councillor Jeff Brodie, which called on the council to rebuke Councillor P.C. Wilcox for failing to share a delegated decision she made back in February about granting authority to an officer to conclude mediation. The motion was withdrawn, but at the start of the meeting, while answering a public question, Councillor P.C. Wilcox laid out a timeline of the updates the council were given about the mediation process through various committees and questions.
Leisure centres are under threat. Leisure centres on the island could be in the firing line as an operational review is carried out while money pressures continue. It follows a dire warning last week from the adult social care lead, Carl Love, who said services may have to close to pay for some of the island's social care needs if the council is not given more money from the government. The Isle of Wight Council is set to review its adult social care budget, by £2,647,000 due to rising bills. The struggle to recruit care staff and pressures in providing care packages. Councillor Love said, "We don't have the ability to generate the money on the island unless we significantly close things down, such as loss-making leisure centres, as has happened in other areas. I am not saying we are doing it, but it is something we are having to think about, because we still have a statutory responsibility to keep adult social care services going. The authority is also facing a hole in its leisure and sports development budget of £1,279,000 due to a lack of income and utility costs. Despite one leisure gym and fitness facilities being open again following the COVID pandemic, one-card membership levels are yet to return to what they used to be. The council says membership in September this year was at 73% of what it was in September 2019, although this is still over its target. The reduction, however, has not gone unnoticed, and a review of services at Westridge, the Heights and Medina is currently being undertaken. In documents seen by the council's cabinet last week, it was said the authority recognises the importance of the services to islanders and visitors, but is carrying out the review in light of the large increases in fuel costs and overall impact of the rise in the cost of living. It is thought the review will be finished by the end of the year, in time for setting the council's budget, and then presented to senior managers, directors and the cabinet member for internal use. The outcome, the spokesperson said, will depend on the findings, but if significant decisions are required, then the relevant information would be made public.
Questions on movie plan. A former planning chief at the Isle of Wight Council wants to know where, now for the island's marine industry in the wake of the announcement of the Medina Studios scheme for Kingston in East Cowes. Former Cowes councillor Richard Hollis, in a letter to the county press, said he accepted the film and TV studio plan was laudable. But he said Kingston Marine Park was designed and laid out to allow for the expansion of the marine manufacturing industry that urgently requires water frontage to continue its solid growth. He said Kingston Marine Park was giving planning permission solely for marine development use. At last week's IW Council meeting, when the decision to sell the Medina Studios was made, Director of Regeneration Chris Ashman explained why the marine industry usage was not being taken further. He said environmental regulations and European-wide environmental regulations had limited the opportunity for that and discounted it altogether. Boat building up to 30 tonnes would require significant civil engineering impacts on the riverside and riverbeds at that site. He said, colleagues at the Environment Agency and Natural England have highlighted that it is not possible under the habitat regulations. So for cost reasons and also practical delivery ones, the marine use permission is not deliverable. Earlier in the week, East Cowes councillor Carl Love said the site was bought by the council for £600,000 from Homes England, and it was never a deep water site. He said the due diligence was not done by Homes England in terms of the river. People talk about worms in the mud, but it is much more than that, seahorse colonies and all kinds of things. So it cannot be touched in the way it was originally designed, and that was imposed by the Environmental Agency. But Mr Hollis said that there had been an undertaking by both the then Homes and Community Agency and the Isle of Wight Council that the site would replace land lost in what he called the observed destruction of the iconic boat building facility next to the Columbine building in East Cowes. He called on the council to actively looking for replacement sites for the marine industry. How about the unused redundant council land on the other side of the river next to Medina Wharf, he said.
I'll visit the island next year, says Minister. The Isle of Wight could be welcoming a visit from the government's current tourism minister in the spring after MP Bob Seeley met with Stuart Andrew. Mr. Andrews' pledge to make a trip here has been welcomed by the Managing Director of Visit Isle of Wight, Will Miles. More than 2.4 million visitors cross the Solent each year, and they spend £350 million during their island visits, according to the tourism organisation's figures. Mr. Miles said, "I welcome Bob's discussions with the newly appointed tourism minister. It is a highly competitive marketplace out there for holidays, short breaks and day visits. 2023 and beyond will be even more competitive, and we need to ensure the island's tourism agenda is front and centre," Bob Seeley said. "I'm keen that the minister visits us to see what a fantastic visitor economy we have on the island. We have something very unique in terms of our tourism offer, and I want us to showcase this nationally."
Fireworks boost funds. Thousands descended on Newport's North Fairley farm for the island's first Fairley fireworks event, raising £35,000 for Mountbatten. The event was organised by the IW Festival, IW Radio, and Mountbatten CEO Nigel Hartley said, "We were completely blown away by everybody's support. At a difficult time for everyone, this will make a real difference to us and the work that we do."
Tribute to Miss Trustee. A Brading Roman Villa trustee and British Museum curator who grew up on the island and had a stellar career in maritime archaeology has died at the age of 44. Dr. Ross Thomas is survived by his wife, 2 children, aged 7 and 4, his parents and brother. A Brading Roman Villa spokesperson said, "He will be greatly missed by his family, friends and colleagues, and our thoughts are with them all this time." The county press spoke to Dr. Thomas earlier this year, and he said being from the Isle of Wight inspired him, as he had always had an interest in maritime archaeology. Brading Roman Villa said, "The trustees are very sad to announce that our friend, colleague and trustee, Dr. Ross Thomas, passed away unexpectedly on November 14th after surgery. We were delighted to have Ross join us as a trustee a little over a year ago, not only as an archaeologist with an array of field work on land and underwater across the Hellenistic and Roman worlds, and a curator of the Department of Greece and Rome at the British Museum, but also because he had grown up near Brading Roman Villa, often saying that it was an inspiration for his future career. He was committed to public and professional service. Ross was a keen supporter of students, especially those from less privileged backgrounds, organising annual British Museum placements. With broad experience and strong relationships with international institutions, antiquities services and learned societies, he served on several boards and was keenly aware of the role and responsibilities of charitable trusts, such as ours. In the brief time he was a trustee of Brading Roman Villa, we had the benefit of his enthusiasm and empathy for our site, and ideas for the future which will not be forgotten. Further information and memorial arrangements and the family's wishes concerning contact will be made available when possible. A GoFundMe page has been set up to help support Dr. Thomas's family, which can be found at https://2E75D723.
Customer Forum by Red Funnel. Day-to-day issues that affect passengers were discussed at a customer forum hosted by Red Funnel. Senior leaders met with island residents in the reinstated forum for the first time since 2019. The face-to-face discussion included Red Funnel CEO Fran Collins and CFO Graham Barnettson. A wide variety of topics were discussed during the 3-hour session, including ferry service reliability, labour challenges, pricing, support for customers travelling for medical reasons, customer service, the Signature Lounge food and beverage offerings, support for disabled passengers, and the Red Jet timetable. Immediate plans to improve the flow of queuing for passengers in refuel involve relocating the coffee machines to allow for better access. Red Funnel will be reconfiguring this space when the vessels go in for their annual refit over the winter. The ferry operator said it also appreciates the requirement for additional seating during busy periods and will be taking this into account. Red Funnel will be hosting its next customer forum session in February 2023. Customers interested in attending can email customerservices@redfunnel.co.uk.
Proposals for new houses. A new housing development has been proposed on the outskirts of Newport. Weymouth-based company Betterment Properties has submitted plans for 46 homes, 1-bed flats and 2, 3 or 4-bed houses on Buckbury Lane, next to the Kingdom Hall of Jehovah's Witnesses. The official number of homes, however, has not been decided, and 46 is only a rough figure put to the Isle of Wight Council to demonstrate how the site could be used. If 46 properties were built, a third, or 16 1-bed flats, would be affordable. Outline plans have been submitted for the site off Long Lane, only seeking permission for access to the site, and whether a residential development would be acceptable in that location. Other matters considered necessary by planners, including the appearance, landscaping, layout and scale, would all be determined for a later application. Planning agent, BCM, on behalf of Betterment Properties, said in documents the site is suitable, available and deliverable for new housing. It also said it would not have a negative impact on existing residential amenities, trees, ecology, highways, or foul and surface water drainage infrastructure. You can view the application 22/02032/OUT on the Council's planning register. Comments can be submitted until December 16th.
An easier way to find out what's happening. Trusted local news media entities such as the county press sit right at the heart of local life. Our journalists hold authority to account on your behalf, covering courts and council meetings so you know what's going on. As we champion your interests through campaigning and appeals, an important but less talked about part of our offering is public notices. These are advertisements placed in the main by local councils which tell you about things such as planning applications or changes to traffic regulations. If a bar wants to extend its opening hours, you'll find out about it through a public notice in the pages of your CP. Sometimes public notices can generate controversy and get everyone in the community talking about an issue which will affect their lives, such as plans for a large new development. 2 years ago, the local news media sector came together through industry trade body, the News Media Association, to discuss how to give public notices a boost. The challenge for the industry was to bring public notices into the 21st century by harnessing local media's large and increasingly digital audiences, while ensuring everyone can still access them in their printed county press. We are delighted to introduce the result of that work, the Public Notice Portal, PNP, which will transform the way readers interact with public notices. The new portal has been built following extensive consumer research discussions with local authorities and central government. The project has also benefited from technical expertise and £1 million worth of funding from Google. Fully searchable by postcode and type of notice, the portal uses maps to show you exactly where notices that affect you are located. Users can sign up to receive notifications about particular types of notices or notices relating to a specific geography. The portal is free to use and is part of your local news media website, in addition to operating as a standalone resource. During the test phase of the project, you have the opportunity to have your say about this transformative technology. Visit the portal at https://publicnoticeportal.uk/ and see what you think. We believe the public notice portable is critically important part of that mission and will deliver a powerful boost for local communities right across the UK.
MP criticises inaction on Camp Hill site. A lack of decision-making on the decommissioned Camp Hill prison has been criticised by the Isle of Wight MP. He said the indecision was holding up growth, although it was revealed the Isle of Wight Council is still being considered as an option to take over the site. Speaking in the House of Commons earlier this week, Bob Seeley asked what the Ministry of Justice planned to do with Camp Hill. He also asked whether the government agreed it could drive economic growth through quicker decision-making. After a minister admitted the island had been waiting nearly a decade for an answer on Camp Hill. Mr. Seeley said, "Do ministers understand, and have they taken forward, our preferred option on the island was for it to be sold to the Isle of Wight Council at a price it can afford, so we can use the land for jobs, housing and development, taking pressure off greenfield sites and creating wealth instead of having this valuable site stand empty for such a long time." The council had been hoping to use the prison site to build up to 750 houses and provide employment land for the creation of jobs. The site had been on the back burner recently, as the ruling Alliance administration prioritised brownfield sites the council owned and could take forward. Damien Hines, the Justice Minister, responding to Mr. Seeley, confirmed options were being looked at for decommissioned prisons, and the Isle of Wight Council was still in the running for getting Camp Hill. Officials had been in talks with council staff, and Mr. Hines said he would ensure they continued. In November last year, the council was looking at the possibility of training prisoners in manufacturing modular houses and using buildings at Camp Hill for the production. Officials had no objection to the plans, but wanted to wait until a decision was made by the Secretary of State at the end of March, before giving the go-ahead. Due to a lack of a decision, however, the possibilities have stalled. A council spokesperson confirmed it could do nothing until ownership and permissions from the officials were in place. Other public bodies, including fire and the police, are said to have inquired about Camp Hill.
Death might have been avoided, coroner says. A 44-year-old epileptic's death from hypothermia in freezing conditions on the banks of the River Yar was potentially avoidable if the Isle of Wight NHS Trust had looked after her better. An inquest heard Charlotte Burch of Atherley Road, Shanklin, was found dead on January the 11th, 2019. The hearing into her death resumed at the Isle of Wight Coroner's Court on Monday, with coroner Caroline Summeray questioning St Mary's Hospital's decision not to detain her under the Mental Health Act. A number of failings by the Trust in its care of Miss Burch were identified in a serious incident investigation carried out after her death. On December the 26th, 2018, Miss Burch, who lived alone, had been admitted to St Mary's Hospital. A person with a long history of unexplained seizures, the court heard, she was discharged on January the 1st, 2019, with confusing information, which didn't correlate, and 6 days later she was found in a confused and paranoid state by her carer. Miss Burch was readmitted to hospital on January the 7th and diagnosed with post-seizure psychosis. The court heard she had suffered from epilepsy since the age of 10, and in the last 12 years she would regularly injure herself during an attack, so far as to be scared to go out on her own or to even cook. On the days leading up to her final admission, Miss Burch was described as lucid one minute and talking strangely the next. She was never psychiatrically assessed, but was muttering to herself, trying to ward off imaginary things and disturbing other patients. Her family warned hospital staff she was a flight risk, and Miss Burch made several attempts to leave. On January the 9th, she went against the advice of medical staff and absconded from hospital, leaving without a phone, money, medication or suitable clothing. A large-scale search was launched. Attempting to make her way from Newport to Shanklin, Miss Burch interacted with 2 or 3 members of the public who were concerned for her welfare. On January the 11th, Miss Burch's body was found in Merston on the banks of the River Yar. The inquest heard she would have been easily disorientated in the darkness and temperatures had fallen to below freezing. Her cause of death was attributed to hypothermia and epilepsy. The investigation identified just one area as good practice, which Mrs. Summeray described as seriously disappointing. Failures included no formal risk assessment, delays in prescribing medication, no formal capacity assessment, and a lack of understanding of a medical condition. Miss Summeray and Miss Burch's death was potentially avoidable, she said, and had appropriate safeguarding put in place. The Trust was also questioned over its decision not to detain Miss Burch under the Mental Health Act. Miss Summeray said that to say Miss Burch was not detainable was a hollow phrase, in the context that she was never assessed. Miss Summeray highlighted significant lapses in care which she said the Trust had sought to address.
Critical work to maintain roads. Island Roads is responsible for more than 800 structures that support the highway network, and each year undertakes a comprehensive inspection programme of around 100 bridges and 300 walls that retain the highway. In many cases, these structures are barely visible from the highway, but should they fail or deteriorate, then the impact on traffic would be severe. A structure that becomes defective or is assessed as being substandard may have to be closed or subject to a weight restriction, and that would have a major impact on the network. Regular inspections help Island Roads to identify where maintenance, repair work, and strengthening work is required. Given the age of some of the walls and bridges which Island Roads is responsible for, maintenance work is sometimes inevitable. This winter, Island Roads will be working on several schemes that will have an impact on traffic movements, but are necessary in order to ensure the network remains safe and accessible. The first is the strengthening of the wall behind the Spyglass Inn in Ventnor. Here not only is the historic wall that supports the esplanade as it rises La Falaise car park to be strengthened, but the parapet wall will also be rebuilt, providing a critical safety upgrade for all who use this road. The wall is within a conservation area, so special care will be taken to ensure the new parapet is in keeping with the surrounding area. During this work, access to the car park will be via Bath Road. The other major scheme that began last month is the strengthening of the main bridge through Alveston. This bridge involves the construction of a buried concrete saddle over the existing masonry arch to ensure that the structure remains fit for purpose and without the need for a weight limit. This strengthening technique, along with masonry repairs, will restore the arch capacity at the same time as retaining the existing appearance of the bridge, which is a key consideration on this Grade 2 listed structure. Nearing completion is the project to rebuild the collapsed retaining wall at Belgrave Road in Ventnor. This should be finished in December. Find out more by visiting islandroads.com/ourhighwayservice/maintenance activities/bridges and structures.
Pedestrian hit by car. A woman pedestrian in her 70s was taken to hospital with injuries to her leg after a car mounted the pavement on Shanklin Esplanade, hitting her last Friday. The car was left hanging over the edge of the Esplanade, perched above a steep drop down to the sand below. Emergency services at the scene included the Hampshire and Isle of Wight Constabulary, Hampshire and Isle of Wight Fire and Rescue Services, and the Isle of Wight Ambulance Service. Police were called at 12:28 p.m. to a report of a collision involving a car and a pedestrian. The fire service sent 2 fire engines, a response support vehicle and the aerial ladder, and firefighters helped police winch the vehicle off the wall and make the scene safe.
Willow unit in the running for award. A team which provides end-of-life care at St Mary's Hospital has reached the final of the Sun's Who Cares Wins Awards for the Southern region. The awards celebrate NHS healthcare heroes who go above and beyond to keep all of us safe. Next year's winners will be announced at a star-studded ceremony hosted by Davina McCall and screened on Channel 4 on September 18th. The Willow unit is the only nurse-led end-of-life unit in the country, providing care for those who would otherwise die in open days in A&E or intensive care. It was originally set up as a 3-bed unit in February 2020, but has since expanded has cared for more than 1,300 patients and their families. Pam McCarthy's husband, Rod, 80, spent 12 days on the unit before his death in April. She said, "Rod and I celebrated our 50th year wedding anniversary last August. He hadn't been ill, so losing him was a shock for the whole family. Staff at the unit have called me twice since to check and see how I'm doing. I'll never be able to thank them for everything they did for us. They made a desperately heartbreaking time more peaceful." Steve Varner's dad, David, 87, died on the unit in July. Steve said, "Dad died of heart disease, but had pre-existing conditions. He was at Wellow for 19 days, and every single one of the people who looked after him is an angel, and I don't use that word lightly. Their kindness and compassion meant he had a comfortable death. It humbled me completely, the dedication and care he was shown. The fact that the unit is nurse-led means doctors are not diverted from elsewhere in the hospital, and staff also offer pre-bereavement counselling to relatives to help them come to terms with losing their loved ones." Clinical Director and Consultant Nurse for End-of-Life Care, Shane Moody, said, "We wanted to create somewhere dignified for people to die. I noticed one ward was shut, and I realised this would be the perfect place. We put forward a case to pilot an end-of-life care unit with just 3 beds. The pilot was due to start in February 2020 for 3 months, but then COVID hit, and our unit ended up having 30 beds. We were busy, but the feedback we got from families was amazing. Finally, we were giving patients the death they deserved in a less clinical environment. Wellow has really changed the culture of dying at the Trust. Staff at the unit are now fundraising for cuddle beds so that family members can sleep with their loved ones in their last days, as well as replacing plastic chairs with more comfortable recliners for the relatives." The other finalists in the category are the Proton Beam Therapy Centre in Manchester and a team from Southampton Children's Hospital and Birmingham Children's Hospital who evacuated 21 children with cancer from Ukraine.
And now memories. One of the most inexplicable accidents in Isle of Wight wreck history. There is a line of treacherous rocks in the shallow waters alongside the Needles Lighthouse, known to mariners as the Needles Bridge. Just before 7 a.m. on a Sunday morning in January 1947, a Greek cargo steamer, the Varvasi, struck the bridge, becoming firmly fixed in an upright position. Oddly, despite warnings that she was on the wrong course, she ignored the advice and headed straight for the rocks. The weather at the time was fine and clear, leading the county press to describe the incident as one of the most inexplicable accidents in the history of wrecks. On board the Varvasi was a cargo of 300 tons of tangerines, 400 tons of wine, iron ore, and a crew of 34 under Captain Koulombadopoulos. Soon after she struck the rocks, the Yarmouth lifeboat arrived, but was told no assistance was required. At 6 a.m. the next morning, the crew decided they did need assistance after all, and they were picked up by lifeboat and taken to Yarmouth to be given dry clothes and accommodation at the King's Head pub. One of the lifeboat crew was Nelson Simmons, part owner of a salvage company that was later hired to save what they could from the wreck. Nearly 40 years later, Nelson was interviewed about events that morning. He was interviewed by Henry Hislop of Cowes, now in his 96th year, who was a presenter on St Mary's Hospital Radio in the mid-1980s. Henry had the presence of mind not only to interview locals, but to keep the recordings, which he has kindly made available to me. Nelson tells Henry there may have been something fishy about the grounding. Well, we got out there, it was quite calm, and all the crew were ready to come ashore. They had their baggage packed, and we took them to Yarmouth, and the skipper stayed in the King's Head for about a fortnight. Nice chap he was, spoke very good English. He told us he thought it was a bit of a put-up job. He said the crew had put the ship ashore purposely because they hadn't been home for a long time, and they knew they would be off again after this trip, and they thought, well, we're not having any more of this. They reckoned that they'd done that.
Nelson's salvage work began, but stormy weather held it up. The county press reporting on February 15th. Sea conditions have made it impossible for H. Simmons and Sons to carry out further salvage since they brought over 600 crates of tangerines ashore last week. They have now saved over 8,000 crates, and the fruit was in perfect condition. Nelson's interview confirms this. We salvaged about 5,000 or 6,000 cases of tangerines, and because it was very cold in February, they kept about 3 months in the holds. We used to land them at Yarmouth Quay in 18-pound baskets, and Fred Trim, the fruit merchant, used to take them all off us, and I think we got about £0.50 a basket for them. They all had to be lowered over the side by rope, all by hand. There was nothing working on the ship, you see. Next out of the hold was what everyone had been waiting for. Then we started to get the wine up on deck, and we broached the first barrel up. We broached that and had a drink of it. They were 200-gallon barrels. They stood nearly 5 feet high, great big things. There was 200 barrels, and we knew that because the skipper told us, but he didn't seem to think it was a lot of value, this wine, and nor did Lloyd's, the shipping agents. They told us not to bother with it. Anyhow, a Yarmouth bloke, Cole, came out and he took a lot of this wine off with his barge. Mew Langtons, the brewers, bought it, and they were selling this wine at 9 bob a bottle. 6 weeks later, the county press reported, rough seas tore a hole in the side of the Vivacity this weekend, and the beaches were littered with tangerines and about 50 huge barrels of wine. A customs official stated that the wine was unfit for human consumption, but it did not stop a number of people from raising a toast, including some German POWs who broke open a cask on the shore near Colwell. Nelson reported, when the ship broke open, what was left aboard there was about 100 barrels, I expect, washed ashore all along the beaches, and at Colwell there were a lot of German prisoners up in Bramble's camp, and of course they got down on the beach and that very soon got to work with that. They were all drinking and drunk down there. Oh yes, I think everybody had a share of that. You'd come down to the beach with a bucket, fill it up, and away you went. During the summer more barrels of wine were removed until on January 3rd, 1948, nearly a year to the day since she foundered. The county press reported, the Vivacity broke in half during a storm, the ship disappearing completely on Saturday. The beaches were littered with debris from her. West Wight residents using prams, homemade trolleys and bicycles reaped a rich harvest of driftwood from the beaches.
My View by Rebecca Roncoroni. Ferry services must get better. The island's ferries, the frequency, reliability and cost, always an issue, have now become a major concern, with the government allocating tens of millions of pounds to both Southampton and Portsmouth hospitals to buy services and beds for islanders. The number of islanders being forced to rely on the ferries to receive vital, life-saving medical treatment are rising. For many cancer patients, this is not new. St Mary's has gone from being a centre of excellence for breast cancer to mainly a screening service. Cancer patients, already vulnerable, are forced to travel daily for weeks at a time for radiation and chemotherapy. Not just breast cancer, all cancer. I cannot imagine how exhausting that must be while going through such a worrying ordeal. Then add to that the cost. Even with Wight Link discreetly offering people travelling for medical appointments a 50% discount. If you are travelling 5 days a week for radiation on the Fast Cat, then catch a bus or taxi to the hospital, that still works out at a minimum of £60 a week without a cup of coffee. Many people need a companion or would prefer support. The cost and the time involved makes this hugely difficult. The government, despite moving the island's medical services piecemeal over to Portsmouth and Southampton, have refused to subsidise islanders' travel and time costs on the principle that they don't fund travel for anyone using the NHS. This is nonsense. Such principles clearly do not apply to the private companies that the NHS has contracted to carry out minor day procedures. When I had an operation for carpal tunnel on my hand, Southampton Treatment Centre sent red funnel red jet tickets for me and my husband for the op and the follow-up, as well as paying for the taxi. This begs the question, why are travelling costs free for those undergoing minor procedures but not for those with life-threatening illnesses that have no other viable option? There needs to be some joined-up thinking in order to reduce the real suffering that is being caused or contributed to by the government. Hello, Mr. Seeley. Not just in forcing islanders into expensive and lengthy commutes for medical care, but to ensure that the infrastructure is there in order for fair and affordable access. I don't know how the young people that rely on the Yarmouth to Lymington route to attend Brockenhurst get to socialise with friends at the college or do after school stuff. If they miss the 5 p.m. ferry back, they have to wait until 7 p.m. When our government sold publicly owned Sea-Link to a private company, they failed to put in any requirements for a minimum public service to be maintained or place any regulatory authority to oversee them. This means that all islanders have to rely on the integrity of the ferry companies. We all know how that is going. It's essential not only for those having to travel to the mainland for treatment, but for commuters, shoppers, businesses, families and students that we have some kind of public service order placed on the ferries in order for islanders to be able to access the mainland. It's a question of integrity.
Striving to keep up the good work for islanders. It's been another busy month in Parliament. I've been talking on things that are important to the island, such as regenerations, housing and the investment projects that are happening, such as the new building work at St Mary's, the new diagnostic centre and the repairs now underway at Ryde Piers Railway. It's all part of the £120 million of extra investment we have been getting in the island in the past 5 years. It's all part of getting a better deal for the island. The Chancellor's statement earlier this month was tough. Taxes will go up, although we are protecting spending that we will support the creation of jobs and opportunities. We will aim to get taxes down as soon as we can. We know people expect us to run the national finances properly and be the party of lower taxes and opportunities. I was delighted that the triple lock will be reinstated from April 2023. This means that in April the state pension will increase by 10.1%, in line with the inflation figures for September 2022. This is the biggest cash increase in the state pension ever. I fully support and welcome this. I raised this issue in Parliament a few weeks ago. It is important that those folks on fixed incomes have greater support, especially those who have paid into the system all their lives. However, all households, not just pensioners, are being supported as the cost of living increases. Under the Energy Price Guarantee, EPG, the typical household will pay no more than £2,500 on their energy bill until April 2023. Thereafter, the price cap will rise, so that the typical household will pay no more than $3,000 until April 2024. The EPG will save the average household a further £500 and means they will not have to face energy bills of £6,000 this winter. On top of the EPG and £49 billion cost of living support package, pensioners continue to receive other support, including free bus passes, winter fuel payments, tax-free pension contributions worth over £50 billion, and free TV licences for the over 75s in receipt of pension credit. Times are a little tough at the moment. We know folks on the island and throughout the UK are concerned. That's why government is acting. It's why I'll continue to seek to get investment in the island to help create jobs and better opportunities for islanders.
What's on? On Friday the 2nd of December, the Salvation Army has a Christmas reflections concert. It starts at 7 p.m, and this is a fundraising event to support the Salvation Army and allow them to support their Christmas projects for the homeless and lonely on the Isle of Wight. The Salvation Army Church can be contacted at 72 Pyle Street, or you can go online to the poet, or email them, to the poetonline@gmail.com, or call them on 01983 761 685.
Music, lanterns, carols and fun festive fairs. Ventnor is holding a Christmas Community Day and carols in the park, with a huge range of events being held across the town. Put December 10th in your diary, thanks to the efforts of Ventnor Enhancement Fund, Ventnor Carnival Association, Ventnor Town Council and St Catherine's Church. There will be live music, a lantern parade and carols in Ventnor Park, as well as Christmas fairs at St Catherine's and Ventnor Baptist churches, and a Christmas market at Ventnor Winter Gardens, raising funds for St Catherine's School. There will be live music from 12 noon until 4 p.m. in Spring Hill Gardens, and Santa will be at a grotto in the High Street during the day. Ventnor Carnival Association is organising a best dressed window competition and a window spot competition, as well as the lantern parade. The parade will assemble on the green in Dudley Road from 4:30 p.m. and make its way to Ventnor Park from 5 p.m, led by Santa, Vector's Corps of Drums, and of course Ventnor Comic Jazz Band. Carols in the Park starts at 6:30 p.m. Mulled wine and mince pies will be provided by Ventnor Enhancement Fund and hot dogs by Ventnor Rotary Club. Tea in the park will also be serving refreshments. There are free lantern making workshops from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. on Saturday, November 26th, at St Margaret's Hall in Lower Loverville, and on Saturday, December 3rd, at Ventnor Baptist Church in Pier Street from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. To book your place, email Teresa at prestonchrs@aol.com or phone on 07443 569 577.
TV favourites to star at the Ireland Story Festival. Horrible History star Simon Farnaby and former CB's presenter Siri Burnell will headline the 2023 Isle of Wight Story Festival in February. You'll know Simon from Ghosts, Yonderland, The Mighty Boosh, this time with Alan Partridge, and Horrible Histories, in which he plays Death. The BAFTA-nominated Paddington 2 writer also recently appeared alongside everyone's favourite marmalade-loving bear and the Queen in an opening skit for the Platinum Jubilee concert. On Saturday, February the 18th, he will speak about his book, The Wizard in My Shed, after presenting CBeebies for 8 years. Siri Burnell has turned to writing children's books, and she will answer questions on Wilder Than Midnight. Also appearing on the Saturday, Siri is the author of Harper and the Scarlet Umbrella and Harper and the Night Forest. The pair will join Kieran Larwood, Laura Ellen Anderson, Nicholas Allen, Julia Tufts and Jamie Littler at the event. Thursday at the Story Festival will mean the chance to play Dungeons and Dragons. Plus there will be performances of the Apollo Youth Theatre, Hard Hitting's production of His Name is Zach, and Horsebox Theatre, The Lighthouse Keeper. Musicians Amy Joliffe and J.C. Grimshaw will entertain in the Key Arts Cafe. The Isle of Wight Story Festival will be at Key Arts in Newport.
NHS Thanks by Sue Hunter from Newbridge. I would like to thank the NHS for their services in treating my brother, who is in St Mary's Hospital from November 7 until November 19th. He has bowel cancer and came down with sepsis, which caused other medical complications. My brother was admitted to the acute assessment unit, then transferred to Luckham Ward. All the staff in both wards pulled him through with not only medical intervention, but also by their devotion, kindness, care, and the practice in applying to his dignity and showing him compassion. The staff were exemplary. We thank you all from the bottom of our hearts.
Thanks to Good Samaritans. I should explain this is by AJM Gale from Ryde, and she says, I am 93 and have recently acquired a mobility scooter. On the afternoon of Monday, November the 14th, I had some letters to post and decided to use the scooter to go to the post box at the junction of East Hill and West Hill roads in Ryde. I had no problem in doing so. I decided to be a little more adventurous and visit the canoe lake. I crossed East Hill Road using the dropped curbs and drove into Abbey Lane, an unmade road with curbs. First mistake, the depth of that curb was greater than I thought. Second, I could not go forward at right angles, so my front near side wheel dropped, and in slow motion I was dropped onto the road on my left shoulder. I could not move and was thinking about using my mobile phone to summon help. Then I saw a lady walking her dog coming down the lane, and a car pulled up beside me and a second lady arrived. The two ladies lifted my 15 stone into a standing position, lifted my scooter, checked I seemed not to have broken bones, etc., or visible bleeding, made sure I could get back onto the scooter and saw me safely across East Hill Road and on my way home. I do not know the names of the ladies. I was shaken up and did not ask, but it shows that the Samaritan instinct is still alive on the island. Long may it remain, and thank you both for coming to my aid.
We should support hard-working local businesses by Hans Bromwich from Cowes. What makes a vibrant town? Often it's the people behind the businesses who work extremely hard to enhance the landscape. One of my many joys strolling through Cowes en route to Manny's for a morning coffee and pastel di nata is passed in the beautiful display of fruit and veg lovingly arranged each morning outside Rosalie's of Cowes. Alas, it is no longer there. Wondering why, I inquired, and was told that the council wanted to not only charge the owner more money to display fruit and veg outside her shop, but also insisted public liability insurance was raised from £5 million to £10 million. God forbid anyone trips over a lettuce. Sadly, the additional cost is simply too much for the business to bear. I mean, really? Has the Isle of Wight Council completely lost the plot? Rosalie's daily display brings Cowes alive. The council should be paying Rosalie for the stunning contribution she makes to the town, not beating her into the ground. Perhaps Cowes Town Councillor Richard Quigley can knock a few heads together on the Isle of Wight Council and find a way of sort this idiocy out.
Councillor was absent again, says Angela Norris from Shanklin. For the second year running, Chris Quirk, the Mayor of Shanklin, did not attend or lay a wreath at the remembrance service held at Shanklin War Memorial. I feel his behaviour is very disrespectful to the residents of Shanklin and also the relatives of the people who were killed during past conflicts. It is going to be a case of third time lucky next year, if he is still mayor. Editor's note. Councillor Quirk told the county press he attended the Island Remembrance Service in Newport and laid the wreath on behalf of Shanklin. while Councillor Michael Beston laid the wreath in Shanklin on behalf of the Isle of Wight Council. Councillor Beston had to attend Shanklin service to operate the PA system. Shanklin Town Council's wreath was laid by Deputy Mayor Robert May on behalf of Councillor Quirk. Councillors Quirk and Beston believe it is important to be represented at both events.
Leadership Race Cost Us Dearly by Colin Westland from Apps Heath. Despite very clear warnings about the danger to the economy, when the recent Conservative Party leadership race was narrowed down to just 2 candidates, our Island MP Bob Seeley threw his weight behind and supported Liz Truss, who went on to win the contest by the narrowest of margins. We now know what the decision and the subsequent mini-budget that followed has cost the nation: £30 billion. An astronomical and, more importantly, totally needless sum of money, which was the British public are now expected to graciously pay for. This sum is already inflicting incredible hardship on many young families who are now, as a direct result, struggling to pay their mortgages. It will soon mean less money for public services, wages, etc., at a time when everyone is struggling. Bob Seeley, Conservative Party members and Conservative voters might like to quietly reflect upon what their Conservative idiot levy is costing everyone in our nation, on top of everything else we face.
And it's goodbye from Jerry.
And goodbye from Rosie. The In Touch programme follows, and this week's scaffolding news follows that.
Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, the heart of the island's community.
And we got the lovely Chris Kane in from Sight for Wight. Good afternoon, Chris.
Good afternoon. You say the nicest things.
I know.
Can I just, again, congratulate you on your award? That's absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
thank you. Very
well deserved.
If you look to your left on there on the wall, that's the previous years.
Oh, okay.
You see why we're running out of wall?
You are running out of wall.
Yeah, we need a bigger wall. There's a film with a quote like that in it. You're going to need a bigger boat or something.
Something like that, yeah.
Anyway, you've not come here to talk about us. You've come here to talk about Sight for Wight and the story writing competition.
I have indeed.
Ooh, yes. Have you had any entries?
Yes, we had a really good turnout of entries with some really creative stories.
Oh, that's good.
We've had the stories back from our mystery judges.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So they have been sent off to our celebrity readers.
Oh, yes.
Right,
who are they again?
The celebrity readers we have got in no particular order.
Yes.
We have Dominic Minghella.
Oh, right, yes.
Mark Simmons, comedian.
Yep.
We have Bethany Hare, who's best known for her role as Share McQueen in Hollyoaks.
Right.
And the lovely Richard Cadell.
Oh, yeah, the sooty man.
Sooty and Sweep.
Yes.
Excellent
stuff.
So
that's very, really good. So they're all back. So did they say what the quality was like?
I glanced over the comments from the judges, and again they were saying the creativity, and it was really difficult to narrow it down to just 3 winners from each category. Yeah,
we're awash with talent on this island.
We are indeed.
So now you've got those. They're going off to be recorded, and hopefully, if we got your permission, we can play those out over the Christmas period.
Absolutely. I was going to ask you anyway, but yes, please. That would be.
Because we like to do that over the Christmas period. It won't necessarily be Christmas Day, but it'll be over the Christmas period.
And if the authors at some point would like to come in to be interviewed, they'd be more than welcome.
Thank you. Yes, again, that would be lovely if you're happy to do that.
Only if they want to. I'm not going to drag them in by the hair.
Now, the big reveal is going to be on Monday week, isn't it?
Yes, Monday the 5th of December.
Yes.
Yep. Doors open at 6:30 for a 7 o'clock start at the Riverside Centre.
Right.
So we are very much looking forward to that. And again, it's lovely to be live.
Yes.
And not doing a virtual awards ceremony.
Yeah, no, it'd be nice. They're live with people there and everything.
With actual people.
Well, Kelvin and I'll be there to help out with slinging prizes at people.
Thank you. And Kelvin will be our technical sound.
I'll do the sound stuff, no problem at all.
You're a star.
And we'll get all that sorted out for you without any difficulty. Now, how many people are coming to that? Do you know yet, or is it?
Well, again, we are hoping for a full house because of the number of entries we've had. I'll be phoning people to say, please come along. I don't know who the winners necessarily are.
No.
Only the comments on mystery judges. But yeah, we'll be inviting people to come along to find out whether they've won or not.
Yeah. Okay,
but it's not just about going to find out if you won, it's also an entertaining evening.
Yes,
It is.
We've got entertainment
We
as
have
well.
entertainment.
Who
What
have
have
you
we
got?
got? What have we
No
got?
expense bed. We have got the lovely Ben Stubbs, who he's a singer,
Yes.
guitarist, performer.
Yes.
So he's done it for the last 2 years virtually for
Yes.
us, and has kindly agreed to come back and perform
And do it for
live
real.
for us. Yeah.
Yeah.
So he's coming along. We've got a new choir called Sounds Lively.
Right.
So they are going to sing at the start or as people arrive, and then at the second half towards the end they'll sing again, so do some nice
Right.
festive choir.
Oh, of course, yes.
Carols.
Excellent
So
stuff.
that should be good. And we've also got another new person, Steve-O the Magician.
Oh, right.
yes.
I don't know if you've
Yes,
if
we've
that
come across him,
You've
yeah.
come across him, so he's kindly agreed to do some magic and a bit of comedy and all that.
And then, of course, you've got the entertainment of the awards themselves.
Yeah. So
Who's handing out the awards? Do you know?
it's not quite decided yet, but we will have. I can tell you, we've got the High Sheriff coming.
All right.
We've got Joya.
And she's lovely,
She is
isn't she?
lovely. Yes, Joya Minghella Giddens will be coming.
Oh,
along.
yes,
right,
yes.
So so that's sort of confirmed as
Okay.
we speak.
Yeah.
So, is it at the Riverside Centre, Monday the 5th?
Yes,
Was it
Monday
right?
the 5th. Yeah,
Doors open.
doors open from 6:30.
Okay, so if you're not...
And is it free to get in?
It is free, and also you don't have to have necessarily written a story.
No, I was going to say, you can just come along if you want to.
If you want a free evening out and some
Poke your
entertainment,
nose in, yeah,
please come
why
along.
not?
We'll have a raffle there, and obviously we'd encourage.
Of course there's a
people
raffle.
to buy a few raffle
And
tickets.
the bar will be open, I
The
think?
bar will be open as well.
Okay, excellent.
So-
There's no food or anything, but obviously they do bar snacks.
Yeah, they do snacks.
Crisps and chocolate
Yeah,
bars and
yeah.
stuff in there. So
But we are expecting a full house, so
Good for you.
I think it accommodates about 150 people in
Yes.
yeah, I think he
the
does.
large
Excellent
room.
stuff.
So,
So,
yeah.
We're not going to be
looking forward to that.
shivering in another venue then.
No.
We
An
won't
unheated,
mention. We
another
won't
unheated
mention.
venue where we nearly froze to death.
We did.
That was cold.
That's made me cold now just thinking about it.
I know, it was so cold.
Yeah, it was indeed.
But
Wasn't
no,
it?
we'll be in the nice Riverside Centre. Loads of parking.
Yep.
Yes.
Just remember to enter the vehicle number as you come in. Please do that. And save a lot of... There will be people on the door, I'm sure, that will mention that to
Yes,
you.
Yep.
Sue and Peter will be on the doors, so
Okay.
sort of showing you in and showing you what you need to do.
Will there be many Sight for White people around that evening?
Yes, all the Sight for White staff will be there. We will give up our time for the evening as well.
Good.
So, it should be a really fun and festive
It sounds like
evening. As we say on our poster, it's fun, it's festive, it's free.
it. Yes.
Oh, all the Fs.
All the Fs.
Indeed. Right, so just a reminder, and we'll make sure that's on our website. It's
Yes.
Monday the 5th of December
Yep.
at the Riverside Centre. Find out who's... And there's some in each category, I'm presuming.
Yes, yeah,
We've
we
got the
have
age
4
categories.
categories. Yes,
Oh,
yeah.
what were
So
the categories again?
we've got under 8s.
Yep.
We've got 8 to 11,
Yep.
11 to 17, and 18 plus.
Right.
Excellent stuff.
Because I remember one year, little lad of 4 won, didn't he?
Yes,
His
and
little
I'm
story.
trying to remember his name. I think it was Freddie somebody, and he
Yeah.
was
Something
at
like
age
that,
4,
Yeah.
and he had it read out by Katie Manning.
You did, yeah. She did a lovely job of it too.
She
to
did,
be fair,
didn't
yes,
she?
She did
Yeah.
a fantastic
Oh,
job.
I
good
think that
lad.
was the year before the cold
Yeah.
Yes.
venue.
Yeah, it was. Oh, well, thank you for that, Chris. We will see you there. And if you want to come along, don't let it put you off that Maggie and I will be there.
No, but we'll be hiding.
We'll be behind the
out the way.
scenes and things.
Your support matters. We operate thanks to the support of local businesses. If you would like to advertise on Vectis Radio, FM 104.6, contact our team today. Marketing at vectisradio.fm.
Scaffolding and skip news. Week commencing 28th of November 2022. Newport area, 29/29A High Street. 11 St James Street /Lugley Street. Ride area, Jack's 75 Union Street. 7 Cross Street. 51/52 High Street. 71 High Street. Ride skips, Belmont, Stein Road, Seaview. The Cottage, Upper Green Road, St Helens. Sounddown area, 59 High Street.
Freshwater area, the Old Bank, Spence and Willard, Tennyson Road. Ventnor area, 23 West Street and 29 West Street. And East Cow Skips, 36 Yarborough Road.
BBC Sounds. Music, radio, podcasts.
Good evening.
can you prepare for blindness? Last week, one of our guests made the point that however positive a person you may think you are, it is very difficult to anticipate the situation until it becomes a reality. We thought this was an important enough issue to devote a programme to. Is there advice that can be given? Steps you can take, the right people to talk to prepare you for something which, let's be honest, would come as a bombshell to most people. So we've assembled 3 guests who are at different stages of this path. 10 years ago, Amit Patel, who was a trauma doctor at the time, lost his sight literally overnight. Marcia Bainan realised almost a decade ago that she had got problems with her sight, but wasn't diagnosed until 2017. And it wasn't until she had to take early retirement from her nursing job that she really came out about it. But we're going to start with Pauline Mottram, because although Pauline has had eye problems for many years, she got her bombshell literally only a few days ago. So we appreciate you coming on to talk about it so soon, Pauline. Just tell us what you were told by your consultant the other day.
He said that my retinas are degenerating and that he has people in his clinic who have ocular scans half as bad as mine who are designated visually impaired. And he said basically I'm in the process of going blind. And he used the word blind, which I found really shocking. It was like a sort of kick in my stomach. And I just sitting there sort of looking out the window thinking, am I really not going to be able to see all this beauty? And, how will I survive that?
Were you expecting this at all?
No, I wasn't. No. I knew I had problems, but the problems they'd always advised me about was retinal detachment and what to do in the eventuality. But nobody had ever informed me that my retinas are actually degenerating because I'm such a high myope.
So have you even thought about, as it were, preparing for it? Because, that is our theme. Can you actually prepare for blindness?
Well, with retinal detachment, I thought if my retinas detach, I can't really prepare because I don't know when it's going to happen. And when I had intraocular surgery for cataracts, I was aware my retinas could detach, and I contacted RNIB and spoke to them, and the visually impaired people in Glossop were absolutely fantastic. So I sort of made links with quite a lot of people, and then it hasn't happened. So in a way, I think I've been living in a bit of a fool's paradise.
And just one more thing before we move to Marcia. When you left the hospital, what did you... It's a daft question, but I want to know what you felt and whether you kind of felt you had any support with this.
No, I told him that I live alone and I have no family. And he just sort of looked at me. They didn't even give me any leaflets for RNIB or anything. There's a footpath behind the hospital, so I went up there and sat in the woods and just looked at the beautiful colours and just cried my heart out. But I just felt like, is life worth living if I can't see all this wonder that's always been so precious to me?
I think that explains very clearly how it feels. We hope to add some positivities as we go on. Let me bring in Marcia, because I think you freely admit that for a long time you were kind of in denial.
Oh, gosh, absolutely. And hi, Pauline, and I'm so sorry to hear your news because it resonates with me deeply. 2013, I had a really bad headache and I woke up the next morning with what they call floaters in my left eye. The sight had probably reduced by about 70%. I've always been short-sighted, so I knew exactly what it was like not to see without glasses. So I was sent to the hospital and they said I had a vitreous detachment. And basically, it was so bad that I wouldn't sort of regain the sight in that left eye. Basically, I carried on thinking, well, my right eye's good enough. I can still drive. I can still do my nursing career, which I'd been a nurse for at that time, probably about 25 years. So over the next couple of years, I did actually notice the similar thing was happening in my right eye. But again, I kept it from my family until really it got so bad at about 2017, I actually did go back. And then they give me the news that I'd had myopic macular degeneration.
So how did you conceal it and why did you conceal it?
I know it sounds, and I wouldn't recommend anybody to do this. I just felt that I didn't want to be seen as anything apart from me. And I felt that if I sort of admitted I had this problem, then it would sort of get the attention that I really didn't want.
No, but you have been told that you may lose more or all of your vision. I mean, how do you feel now, if that's not a stupid question?
Well, I'm a lot further forward than I was 4 years ago. It's taken a long, long time. I felt very isolated. And like Pauline said, the tears come. And I thought, gosh, how am I going to see this? How am I going to see any of my children? Am I going to see my grandchildren? I took ill health retirement because I was no longer able to drive to do my community palliative care nurse job. So that was a knock as well. But I have come a long, long way. And I want to tell Pauline that there is positivity. I don't know if there's hope, but there's certainly positivity, and you can just lead the life that you actually want to lead by gaining access to certain groups and help.
Well, we'll come on to that. Let me bring in Amit Patel. I know you now wish you had a chance, a time to prepare for blindness. Just explain, first of all, just what happened to you initially.
Yeah, so I have a condition called keratoconus. It's a condition that usually it doesn't result in sight loss, but it can be rectified using hard lenses or corneal transplants. And I was one of those rare people that after having nearly 8 corneal transplants, my body was still rejecting. So I would have a corneal transplant, I would have perfect vision, 20/20 vision, carry on being a doctor, and 6 to 9 months later, get signs of rejection and go through the process all over again. And it was only after my 8th transplant that everything was looking great. And it was 2 years after I had my corneal transplant, I came home from working in the busy A&E departments, went to bed, and there was pressure that had built up in my eyes, and it literally went pop. So I lost my sight overnight without any warning, didn't feel any difference when I went to bed, woke up completely blind.
Which, for someone like me who's always been blind, I can't imagine what that's like. It would be as traumatic as getting my sight back, I suppose. But looking back, what would preparation have looked like to you? Because I know that you've said it would really have been helpful, the fact that it came absolutely out of the blue. So what kind of things do you wish you'd been able to do?
I guess for me, it's very much if I had been able to gather the information I needed, if and when I would lose my sight, I know where to go to, who to turn to, even prepare my family for sight loss, or even kind of get my head around the fact that I will be losing my sight and kind of get to that stage in my life where when it happens, I'm calm about it, as calm as you can be, but I know where to go and who to turn to and what my next steps would be. I think because it came out of the blue for a while, I was very much in, like Mark said, very much in denial, thinking, well, if it went so quickly, it'll have to come back very quickly. But having the doctor's hat, I kind of in the back of my head also knew that I'm never going to get my sight back.
Can I ask you what's helped you most to reach a state of thinking that you're now living a good life? Because I know that's what you do think.
Yeah, I do. I think it's friends and family and peer support. I still wake up having a bad day. As a vision impaired person, things take a little bit longer. You have to find different ways of doing it, but you do it and you carry on. The peer support I have, I can talk to someone else who's visually impaired and say, is it this difficult? Am I doing it the right way? And then, oh no, Amit, have you tried it this way? It's a little bit easier. And it's that.
Which is why, Pauline, you got that bombshell and you live alone, don't you?
Yeah, and I think that's the part that was frightening me most of all. I'm also new to the area where I'm living now, and because of COVID, I've not been able to establish much of a network. I didn't know any people when I moved here. So I am sort of very socially isolated in this place, and that's made it more frightening.
Marcia, at what point did you begin to feel that you were coming to terms with what was happening? I mean, you still have useful vision and it hasn't happened. So I'm wondering what your state of mind is, really.
Last year, I sort of hit a brick wall. My vision is very poor. I am lucky enough to have some sort of vision in my right eye, but overall it is still quite poor. I rang the Macular Society. I just went online and I thought, I've either got to go over this wall or I'm really crashing into it. And I've been lucky enough to have that close-knit friends and family community to rally round. But last year was the point of thinking, this is sort of actually happening, and I wasn't ready ready to accept it. And I don't know if you can accept it. I think it's about adjusting. Can you ever really accept it?
Absolutely. I do a lot of work with people who have been diagnosed with sight loss, and it's that stage where you are in denial for such a long time. I think it's once you get to the stage within yourself to think, well, okay, I want to move on, then it's easier to get the help. It's when I lost my sight, I was angry. I don't know who I was angry at. I was just angry. And it used to annoy me when sighted people say, oh, I can imagine what you're going through. Well, you probably can do for 5 minutes when you close your eyes, but you can open them up again. So it was very much when I reached out to the RNIB, I reached out to local charities, and I said, this is where I am. I really need to be able to talk to someone. I need help. I need that help and support to move forward. And not be angry anymore. I got the help, I got the support, and I learned, well, okay, this is my life. This is what my life is always going to be like. I want to control where my life leads. I want to be happy again. I want to put that genuine smile back on my face again, not for people around me, but for myself.
Can I just bring in Pauline? Because I'm wondering, you're hearing a lot of advice, but quite a lot of positivity, and I'm wondering whether it helps. Because our whole question, in a way, is people will say to you, perhaps prepare yourself for it. I'm just wondering whether any of that kind of gives you a way forward.
I was thinking, as Amit was talking, that there is a grief process, and I think that's a part that other people find quite hard to deny, that they want to put a sticking plaster over it and say, oh, look at Peter Wight, he's blind, and look what he's done with his life, and, sort of things like that. Fine art has always been terribly important to me, and as an art therapist for many, many years, and visuality is important. So that, to me, is a huge loss.
I want to pick up, actually, on something you just said. I wanted to ask about this, and you've given me an opportunity. There was a time when I thought, doing a programme like this, clearly you do talk to people who have lost their sight or been threatened with losing their sight. And I used to think, it would be really helpful for people in all your positions, well, not so much Amit now, but to meet people who've had long experience of blindness, someone who was doing okay and having a good life. But as time has gone on, I've started to question myself about that and whether people like me are actually really quite annoying to be reassured by. Because aren't you tempted to say, well, it's all right for you, you've been blind all your life, and so you don't know any different. So I would be really interested to know what you think about that. Can I bring in Marcia? I mean, would you find that encouraging, or would you find it a bit frustrating?
To be honest, Peter, I find it very, very inspiring and encouraging. If I come across somebody like yourself that has never had sight, then it just makes me feel that I've been fortunate enough to have had sight. But I do understand what you mean, because some people would say, is it worse to have lost something than not to have had it? But for me, no, I find it encouraging, actually.
Amit, did you want to meet other blind people or not?
I did. It was very much, blindness was a new world to me. I didn't have any blind friends. The only blind people I saw were my patients in hospital. So for me, it was learning to live as a visually impaired person, but how do you do it? Personally, I needed to be surrounded by people who live that life, who know what they're doing and can give me the help and the advice. The first time I listened to In Touch, it was encouraging, because I thought to myself, well, I don't have to live the life that I thought a blind person lived. I can live the life I want to live. And I've got the same opportunities, and I can do what I want to do.
Can I just ask Pauline, because the problem for you that I imagine is that you haven't received a definite piece of news. You've received something that might happen. You have to think, well, I don't want this to happen, but should I concentrate on it, or should I get on with life while I can?
He was clear, Peter, it is going to happen. He said, I am going blind.
Right. But people throw that word around, and it may be a degree of... I mean, I'm just wondering how certain you can be.
Or what time frame he was talking about. I mean, he didn't give any time frame at all. To pick up on what people were saying, sort of my first instinct was, sort of where do the visually impaired people meet around here, and how can I find that out? And I found it quite interesting when I've been phoning up different places trying to find out. The response has been, oh, there's no money for community care. You're not going to get anything, And that wasn't my request at all. I wasn't saying I want carers to come in and dress me in the morning. I was saying, where are the visually impaired people so that I can learn from them? And that I found really difficult.
I wonder if in that case we could spend a little bit of time just wondering where people did get help from. Marcia mentioned the Macular Society because Marcia has a macular condition. Amit, who did you get help from?
It was Sight for Surrey. So as soon as I was registered, I had a visit, and this gentleman came around and he sat down and he said, look, Amit, but this is the services we can provide you with. We lived in Surrey at the time. We moved to London a few months after I lost my sight because that's where my wife worked. And my wife researched to see which boroughs had the best services for visually impaired people. And would you believe Newham came out the top because of the cash injection from the Olympics.
Oh, yeah.
So
you've had a few bits of luck then, really?
Sometimes it is luck. Sometimes you have to kind of go and do your research. But it's hard when you're visually impaired. And I was lucky that I had my wife who can get on the internet and actually research for this. But contact your local authorities or even contact the RNIB. They should be able to help you with the local clubs and the local charities around where you live.
I've contacted the RNIB today and they're going to be phoning me back. And I contacted another more local service and they've got me on their waiting list for counselling. I don't quite know what that involves, but they've got at least a 2-week waiting. So, I've got that as sort of something on the horizon.
No, Pauline, 2 weeks. 2 weeks is good. 2 weeks is very good.
Marcia, I think did you have counselling?
Yes, I did actually, Peter. I went to the Macular Society, but like Ahmed, I did contact the RNIB. It took me a long, long time, and it's only in the last 12 months that I've done it. And I've also contacted Sight Loss Cymru Wales, which have been excellent as well. And this week I'm going on a course with the RNIB regarding technology. I've recently been registered severely sight impaired as well. So our local authority have been in touch with me to do sort of kitchen assessments and lighting. So it is all coming together, and I know I've taken a long time to get to this place. But if I was to answer a question, can you be prepared? I'm not sure you can be. I think it's such a life-changing thing that I'm not sure any preparation can actually prepare you.
It's that thing of the unknown. There's only so much you can prepare yourself. But if and when it does happen, you'll hopefully have someone to turn to, or you'll have the needs and the skills. But like Marcia said, it's something I don't think you could quite prepare yourself for it. But hopefully if you've got some of your ducks lined up, you know where to go.
And Marcia, top tip?
Top tip, Pauline, this is what's happening. Hit it head on, don't hide it. Your sight doesn't define you. And there is help there. People really do want to help you as long as you sort of want to be helped.
Can I just ask you, Pauline, it's still very early. I mean, I think this is less than a fortnight ago, wasn't it? Do you have a plan?
Well, what I've been doing is trying to research. I got the letters off the consultant because we're not routinely given them. I've arranged an appointment with Specsavers because they didn't get copies of the letters from the consultant either. And I've been trying to research all the sort of community groups that are around of visually impaired people to make links with them.
Well, thank you for coming on because it's very rare to be able to talk to somebody so soon after a diagnosis like that. And Marcia and Amit, thank you both very much as well. We'd very much like to hear your reactions, listeners' reactions to what we've said and strategies that have helped you if you've been in this situation. You can email in touch at bbc.co.uk. You can leave voice messages on 0161 836 1338. And you can go to our website, that's bbc.co.uk/in touch. From me, Peter Wight, producer Beth Hemmings, all our guests and studio managers Tom Parnell and Mike Smith. Goodbye.